second time. I call the member for Jaga Jaga.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Well, what a humiliating back down from this government that we've seen today. Never before have I seen such a shambolic budget mess. Shambolic, absolutely shambolic. We had a budget brought in by the Treasurer in May this year, and from budget night the Labor opposition has made it absolutely clear that we would fight these pension cuts every day until we defeated them. Every day, and today is that day. This government has been forced to back down and acknowledge they cannot get these cuts through the parliament. We've also said every day since budget night that we would stand with Australian families and fight the $7.5 billion that they want to take out of the pockets of Australian families. And today Labor has prevailed on behalf of Australian families. We know how hard it is for Australian families to make ends meet, but what this lot opposite want to do for an ordinary family, a single-income family on $65,000 a year with a couple of kids at school, this government's budget would leave that family $6,000 a year, each and every year, worse off. That's exactly what this minister, who claims he stands up for families, the reality is, of course, he wants to strip 10% of those families' incomes. That's what this budget means in real dollars for those families. But as we said on budget night, the cruelest measure of all in this budget, a measure that we could not actually believe when we saw it in the budget papers, because never before has Australia's social security system seen such a cruelty. It is the decision by this government to say to young Australians under the age of 30, if you cannot find a job, if you cannot find a training place, then we are going to leave you with nothing, absolutely nothing, nothing to live on. What are they going to live on? What are they going to live on? 6 months, they're saying to young Australians, you'll have nothing to live on. Then they'll be told to go on work for the dole. If after that period they still can't find a job, they'll go on nothing again. That's what this government is trying to introduce. And today Labor has said to this government, these measures are cruel, we will not support them, and we have protected some of the most vulnerable people in this country. And of course, we've campaigned with pensioners.
The truth hurts, Christopher. You can't take it.
Member for Jaga Jaga will take a seat.
And to make yourself look tough in front of all your colleagues.
I recognise the leader of government business.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the bill number 6 is about specific matters that the Labor Party is supporting. Neither the Leader of the Opposition nor now the Shadow Minister have addressed any of the issues in the bill. Now, we've been very tolerant. Leaders of the Opposition are often given a great deal more of attitude than others, but the Shadow Minister should actually address the provisions in the bill that are the ones that the Labor Party are supporting, and so far she hasn't spoken to any of those at all.
I thank the Leader for the House for his contribution. The member for Jaga Jaga.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And of course, just to pick up on the Leader of the House's point, Labor has indicated our position 4 months ago. 4 months ago. 4 months you've had to figure out what you had to do to get agreement to the measures that Labor said we were prepared to support. But oh no, they're far too arrogant for that, far too arrogant. So they come in here today and finally present the bill that we are debating right now that does contain measures that Labor said 4 months ago that we were prepared to support. But of course, because of their arrogance, they were not prepared to actually come and have a discussion and figure it out. They actually were forced to this position because they knew that their bills were going to go down completely in the Senate. They would have ended up with nothing absolutely nothing if they proceeded with their genius strategy in the Senate. So fortunately, we have actually got to the point where Labor's agreed to some sensible changes, and Labor's always been prepared to support sensible changes. But we will never support cuts to the pensions. We will never support what you want to do to young Australians, which is to leave them on their own, to say to them that they'll have absolutely nothing to live on for 6 months. We will never support saying to families, we will take family tax benefit off you when your youngest child, family tax benefit Part B, off you when your youngest child turns 6. So what does all this mean for their budget? What, of course, this means for their budget is that they will never get these measures through. They've reintroduced them again today to try and keep the numbers in their budget, but the truth of it is that when we see their budget numbers, we know, all of us know, that those numbers will be inflated. Because what we've proven in this parliament yesterday and today is that these measures will never, ever get through Labor. Labor is going to do everything in our power to stop you cutting the pension, to stop these massive cuts to family payments, and to stop the cruelty of your attack on young Australians. We will do everything to stop these measures, and I sincerely hope for the most vulnerable Australians that Labor will continue to prevail.